Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. Hermione's right here. Oh, she's being shy. I'm not gonna let them look at you. She's like, no camera. I know it's been a while since I've done a book-related video. I've just been feeling about it, and honestly, it's like always noisy in my house lately, so it's like finding a way to film is almost impossible. So it's kind of quiet right now. It's not completely quiet, so if you hear the TV in the background or anything, I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm gonna do my book wrap up of July, August, September, October, and November. Yeah, 5 months. 5 months I haven't told you anything book related. It's just been a little crazy, guys. I'm just gonna get into it now. The first book that I read in July is book number 6 of the Sticky Stackhouse series, and that is Definitely Dead. I gave it a 4-star, and it's 324 pages. I don't want to spoil too much, but basically Sticky goes out of town because of her cousin Hadley, and yeah, there's like a bunch that happens. I really liked a lot of the new characters in this one. A bunch of the big events, I really liked them. I liked that stuff, so yeah, very good book. I recommend that series, always. I know some people don't like it, but I do. Next is a reread for me. This was my book club's July pick, so I will have my book club linked below, always. But anyways, it was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, one of my favorite books, one of my favorites, well, probably my favorite series of all time. I gave it a 5-star, and it's the first book in the series, of course. It is, in this version, in the illustrated version, 246 pages. I loved reading it with the illustrations. Let me just show you a few. So, Hagrid, Draco, and let's do one more. The Unicorn in the Forbidden Forest. If you don't know what Harry Potter is about, it's about Harry who finds out that he is a wizard after being poorly treated by his family because his parents are dead, and you find out why in this book. You find out everything is not as what it seems. His family has kept like everything from him, like this whole life he has that he doesn't know about. So they kept it from him, and he goes and he finds out what happened. Great book. Definitely recommend. The next book is Carve the Mark. This is gonna be your copy, Kristen. It's a hardback, so if you want to see it on camera before I give it to you, it's can't really see. It's really cool though. Oh, there you go. You can see it when I do that. And then it's like plain on the back, but what it looks like. I struggled to read this so hard. I started to read it like 3 times before I actually got to the point where I knew I was gonna finish it. So, fourth time's a charm, I guess. But I know why. I know why that it took me so long now. And it's because I really did not like this book. And I want to, because look at the cover, it's beautiful. And Veronica Roth is an amazing author. I gave it a 3-star. When I give books that I really don't like a 3-star, it's because I can see why some people like it, but I just don't. So if you ever see me give it a 3-star and I say I really don't like the book, that's why. It's because you might like it. But if I give like lower than a 3-star, that means like I would not recommend it ever. So, if you're into sci-fi, maybe recommend. It is 468 pages. So basically, it's about he's the king of this kingdom, and he uses her to torture people because of her gift. And he also does some torturing too with his gift. Akos is from the enemy side and is like taken to be a slave. Him and his brother, and there's like this prophecy. So like the king like keeps his brother to himself, and Akos wants to save his brother from the king. Akos and Syra, they are forced to be together every day, and they kind of like form like, friendship as you would. And yeah, so I'm not gonna tell you anymore, but that's pretty much what it's about. It reads more like a fantasy than a sci-fi, with superpowers and in space. It just wasn't for me. This is what I said in my review. My review on Goodreads. I said it got good for like 8 chapters, and then I got again. The book was alright. I wouldn't really recommend it. Definitely didn't have the power of Divergent. If you love Divergent, you probably aren't going to like this one. And if you don't like Divergent, then you probably aren't going to like this one either. I have no desire in continuing on with the series. And yes, I still feel that way. The next one I read in July was The Grimm Legacy. And this was good. This was a cute little story. It is a series, and I'm probably going to continue on with it. I gave it a 3.5 star because it is more of a like tween book. It doesn't read to me as much as it would have if I read it as a tween. But it's still really good. It's cute. I really liked it. It's 325 pages, and I would definitely recommend, especially if you have child going into their tweens or are tweens, or even like a little like beginning teenager. If you want to read it with them, I would say yeah, go for it, or let them read it. It's about this girl named Elizabeth, and she just started working as a page at the New York Circulating Material Repository, which is a big library full of objects. She, is just like the person to bring it to the person that checks it out through like the system. So the person checking out the object can borrow it. So she's that person, like the runner. Anyway, so she just started working there. There is this collection called the Grimm Collection, and it is full of magical items from the Grimm brothers' fairy tales, like the objects. Those objects start disappearing, and they're like, you have to go through a whole thing before you can borrow one of the Grimm collection items. You can only check it out like a certain number of times, a big ticket item, and they start disappearing. Her and some of the other pages go on an adventure to see what happens to these items. The last book I read in July was the third book of the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, and that is The Titan's Curse. This book was so good, you guys. Like, I really like it. Like, this is my favorite so far of the books. It's really good. Especially the ending. Like, I had no idea. It was great. I gave it a 4-star, and it was 320 pages. A little bit about this book. I'm not going to go into all of it because I don't want to spoil that much. But pretty much Grover is missing. Percy and some other demigods go, try to find him. That's all I'm telling you about this book. Other than it's a really good book, I do recommend the series. In the beginning of August, my mom and I read Outlander, first book in the series. This was a hefty book to get through. It's 868 pages. I'm not really into romance all that much. My mom loved it. I do want to continue on with the series because I know it's going to get better because I watch the show and the show gets better, so I want to read the books because I know they're going to get better. I gave it a 3-star. Pretty sure my mom would have gave it a 4-star. There was a lot of smut in here. Show was really close to the book if you're interested in that part. Yes, it's very close. Like, very close. Like a few things that my mom and me picked out that was like, wait, that wasn't in there, was it? That wasn't in the show, was it? Or maybe we missed it in the show. So, a few things different. As to be expected, not very many, to be honest. So, we checked out the audiobook from my library. Let me just look up who the narrator was because she was freaking amazing. Davina Porter was the narrator of the audiobook. The year is 1945. Claire Randall, a former combat nurse, is back from the war and reunited with her husband on a second honeymoon when she walks through a standing stone in one of the ancient stone circles that dot the British Isles. Suddenly, she is a Sassenach, an outlander in a Scotland torn by war and raiding clans in the year of 1745. Hurled back in time by forces she cannot understand, Claire is catapulted into the intrigues of lairds and spies that may threaten her life and shatter her heart. For her, James Fraser, a gallant young Scots warrior, shows her a love so absolute that Claire becomes a woman torn between fidelity and desire, and between two vastly different men and two irreconcilable lives. If you're into romance, I definitely would recommend. Like I said, it's a hefty read. You're gonna be in it. Here's what I said on my Goodreads review. I said, we finally finished it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I know it will get better by each book, and I will probably like it more and more. I think Mom liked it more than me. 3.5 star from me. The next book I read in August is a book of short stories from the Morganville Vampire series. You guys know I love that series, and I just needed to go back to Morganville, and this totally brought me back there. It is 540 pages. I did give it a 5-star. She had different versions of how the books could have played out in here even, and it was just really good being back in Morganville. So if you like that series, I definitely would recommend reading. The next book I read in August was Don't Stay Up Late by R.L. Stine, one of the Fear Street books. This is a 2-in-1 book. I read Party Games from this book earlier in the year, and then I finally read Don't Stay Up Late. I wasn't super impressed with Don't Stay Up Late, but it still had that creepy factor. It still had like all the goodness that I liked in all the Fear Street books. Don't Stay Up Late is the second book of the Fear Street relaunch. I gave it a 3-star, 298 pages. And it is about Lisa, who some bad stuff happens to her. Like, she gets in a car accident. She gets this job babysitting, and she has like bad nightmares. She doesn't know if she's hallucinating or not. And yeah, there's like a lot of horror stuff going on because, come on, where her job where she's babysitting is on Fear Street. So, duh, you can't go on Fear Street without a horror story. You guys know that if you read those books. The last book that I read in August was Flowers in the Attic. That was the pick for my book club for the month of August. And it was 389 pages. I gave it a 3-star. Didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It was an okay book. It wasn't enough of one way. Like, it was like trying to be good and trying to be bad at the same time. And I just wanted it to be okay, good, or okay, totally bad at the end. Yeah, I didn't get that, like, satisfaction. It is a series, so I don't know if I'm gonna continue it. I'm gonna say probably not. Pretty much what it's about, this woman, her name's Corinne, and she has these children, and she like hides her children because she wants the money. Hiding them for a little while turns into years. Her mother is not a good woman. Together they abuse and neglect the children. The first book that I read in September was the Sticky Stackhouse book number 7, which is Altogether Dead. I gave it a 4-star. It was 323 pages. She just like can't get out of that like vampire or that supernatural community. She just can't break free from it. And this is another one of those books where she can't break free from it. And that's all I'm saying. It was a good book. It's The Confession. That's the next book I read in September. And this one was pretty good. Classic Fear Street. I liked it much more than I liked Don't Stay Up Late. It's about this bully gets killed by one of the characters who is a really close friend to the main character in this book, and the main character's name is Julie. He confesses to it to the friends, and like it goes badly. 160 pages. and I gave it a 3-star. Then I read The Hunger Games, which is a reread for me, and that was the pick for September in my book club. It was 374 pages, and I gave it a 5-star. I really liked it, just as much as I liked it the first time. I really like the Hunger Games books. I definitely recommend. The nation of Panem, formed from a post-apocalyptic North America, is a country that consists of wealthy capital region surrounded by 12 poor districts. Early in its history, a rebellion led by a 13th district against the capital resulted in its destruction and creation of an annual televised event known as the Hunger Games. In punishment and as a reminder of the power and grace of the capital, each district must yield one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 through a lottery system to participate in the games. The tributes are chosen during the annual reaping and are formed to fight to the death, leaving only one survivor to claim victory. When 16-year-old Katniss, her younger sister Prem, is selected as District 12's female representative, Katniss volunteers to take her place. She and her male counterpart Peeta are pitted against bigger, stronger representatives, some of those who have trained for this their whole lives, and she sees it as a death sentence. But Katniss has been close to death before. For her, survival is second nature. And the last book that I read in September was the pick for the Marauders book club that I'm in. I always have it linked below. I have been trying to read some other books, but I just haven't been getting into them. And then I've been in a reading slump for a long time, not even gonna lie. But I really wanted to read this book, and I bought it, and it was the pick for September, and so of course I read it. I really liked it. I gave it a 4-star, 374 pages. In the year 2044, reality is an ugly place. The only time teenage Wade Watts really feels alive is when he's jacked into the virtual utopia known as the Oasis. Wade's devoted his life to studying the puzzles hidden within this world's digital confines, puzzles that are based on their creators' obsession with the pop culture of decades past, and that promise massive power and fortune to whoever can unlock them. But when Wade stumbles onto the first clue, he finds himself beset by players willing to kill to take this ultimate prize. The race is on, and if Wade's going to survive, he'll have to win and confront the real world he's always been so desperate to escape. Really good book. The audiobook is read by Will Wheaton, if you are a big fan of his. I am not. I found his reading in the beginning of the story to be rather slow, and he didn't do like voices, and it was kind of boring. But then he started to do voices and be the actor that he's supposed to be. And it got more interesting, and the book also got more interesting. It's 80s references like crazy. The movie sucks. The movie is nothing like this book. They should have just changed the name of that movie. I hated the movie. I'm sorry. But I love the book, so recommend. First book I read in October, book 2 of the selection series, which is The Elite. and it was 336 pages, and I gave it a 3.5 star. I actually liked it more than I thought. I thought that the books were going to go downhill. That's what I saw in most of the reviews, as the series goes downhill after book 1. But I enjoyed it almost, if not the same amount as I enjoyed book 1. What am I doing listening to reviews when I always have a different opinion anyway, right? I just need to not watch reviews. Yeah. I will say that there is a little tweak in it that makes it perfect for reading in October. This is what I put on my review, minus the spoilers. The last 25% of the book was a surprise. I didn't think it was going that way, but it was good. The next book that I read in October was book 1 of the Dexter series, and that's Darkly Dreaming Dexter. That was the pick for October for my book club. It's about Dexter who works in the lab, like he's a blood splatter lab guy for crime scenes, and he also happens to be a serial killer. There is another serial killer on the loose, and it interests him, the serial killer, because it's like close to his technique. He helps his sister, and who is a cop, investigate. It was 341 pages, and I gave it a 3.5 star. I enjoyed it. The last book that I read in October was The Awakening, which is book 1 of the Vampire Diaries. This is a 2-in-1 book. It has a second book. I have not read the second book, which is called The Struggle, and I'm going to, because I haven't. I was not impressed by The Awakening by any means. I probably would have liked this so much better if I read it right after I read Twilight books. Yes, I'm going there, don't come for me. I think the show is better. Watching the show, I was not a big fan of Stefan, but I get it now. I get why the girls swoon over Stefan now. Kind of. I mean, I'm still not swooning over him, but I get it. I get you. I get you, girl. Give it a 3-star. Again, it was one of those. I can see why some people like it, but it wasn't my cup of tea. And, I love a good vampire book, but Morganville is so much better. Sookie is so much better. Vampire Academy, so much better. Just read those. It was 311 pages. It's about Elena. She's like the super popular, average popular mean girl in her town, in her high school. Her parents die, so she's going through that, and then Stefan moves in to the town, and he happens to be a vampire. Damon, who is Stefan's brother, is lurking around town. Yeah, Damon wants Elena also, but Elena doesn't want Damon. She wants Stefan, and Damon's the bad boy, Stefan's the good boy, kind of. I mean, they're both vampires, so they gotta be somewhat bad, right? Ugh, you guys haven't met her yet. This is Cowgirl. Oh, I know, I'm holding you. She doesn't like to be held. I only read 2 books in November. The first one was Scythe. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like the best book, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5 star, and it was 435 pages. It's book 1 of Arc of a Scythe series. In the future, like the world has no hunger, no disease, no war. Humanity has conquered all of these things. So there's like people who are like 117 and they get facelifts or whatever, and they can look like 25. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's no death. That is what the sites are for. Sites are people who their population control of humans in a world where no one dies. And the two main characters are Citra and Rowan, and they are chosen by this scythe Faraday. I really liked Faraday's character. He was a very honorable type scythe. Anyway, he takes Citra and Rowan under his wing to be his apprentices, and they have to compete, them being a scythe, and the other one has to gleam, which is what they call the killing. Gleam the other. If she's picked to be a scythe by Faraday, then she has to gleam Rowan. If Rowan is picked by Faraday to be a scythe, then he has to gleam Citra. And they like become friends. And yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of stuff happens. Good book. Probably will read the next book and continue on with the series because it was pretty good. I'll give you The Sun. And that was the Marauders book club choice. Oh, it's so good. I give it a 4-star. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. It was 371 pages. At first, Jude and her twin brother Noah are inseparable. Noah draws constantly and is falling in love with the charismatic boy next door, while Daredevil Jude wears red lipstick, clipped eyes, and does all the talking for both of them. Years later, they are barely speaking. Something has happened to change the twins in different yet equally devastating ways. But then Jude meets an intriguing, irresistible boy and a mysterious new mentor. The early years of the story like all connects at the end, and it was a good ending. Love it. So the earlier years are told by Noah, and it's when they're like 13, 14, like those years. And like the later years are told by Jude when they're like 16 and 17. Very beautiful writing, may I add. That is all the books that I read in July through November. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Comment below what you read, what books you liked, what books you didn't like. Subscribe. Think positive thoughts always.